On this episode of Urban U, we honor Women's History Month with a powerful story of Audre Lorde, a trailblazing poet and fearless activist who walked the halls of Hunter College. Then, we open the archives at CCNY for a glimpse into history and step into Central Park for a lesson on the lost Seneca Village. All that and much more, Urban U starts now.
Audre Lorde was dedicated to freedom, both personal and political. Her words were her weapons in the struggle against oppression in all its forms. And CUNY was lucky enough to have her be part of our community, both as a student and a teacher.
I cannot recall the words of my first poem, but I remember the promise I made my pen, never to leave it lying in somebody else's blood.
Audre was a powerhouse. She was involved with, all the movements. The civil rights movement began in that period. Eleanor Roosevelt came to Hunter when I was president of student council and said, "Go south for freedom." And, we did. We went on all the marches and protests and sit-ins. The 60s, the 70s were periods when people were telling us not to be outspoken, keep your views to yourself. And Audre thought that was the most dangerous thing in the world.
Lorde was an iconoclast from an early age. She didn't speak until the age of 5, and when she did, she primarily communicated through poetry. By the age of 15, she had had her first poem published in 17 magazine. She was the first black student to attend Hunter High School and went on to receive her BA from Hunter College.
I was active in student government, and she was editor of the school literary magazine. We became fast friends almost immediately, and we just remained friends for life.
Having graduated from Hunter in 1959, the 60s were to bring marriage and children, more activism, and her first teaching job at Tougaloo College. While poet in residence at Tougaloo, her first book of poetry was published, and she met her future partner, Francis Clayton. Lorde said later that it was at Tougaloo where she became convinced, anti-academic though I am, that poets must teach what they know if we are to continue being. At the City University of New York, I teach young people.
She was a fabulous teacher. Her passion for teaching was her love for young people. She encouraged her students to write, and she helped nurture and enhance the lives of many poets and writers who flocked to her classes. Audre loved her years at Hunter, so it was a very special relationship. So they created the Audre Lorde Poetry Center. There's a street now, Audre Lorde Way, right near Hunter College. And the special relationship continues because her words are required reading by her former students, who are now the professors, in various departments, psychology, literature, history.
Throughout her years at CUNY, Lorde worked tirelessly for the many causes she believed in.
She was involved with all of the movements for peace and racial justice and social justice and gay rights. And she built bridges. I think why she is so globally beloved is that she transcended all the barriers and all the divisions. None of them mattered to Audre.
Why do you think Audre's still being taught and so many people are still fans and involved with her work?
Audre changed the story and then used her great gifts as the most beautiful, mellifluous, powerful poet and essayist to give us the words to keep the story ongoing and changing.
There is no hierarchy of oppression. I cannot afford to believe that freedom from intolerance is the right of only one particular group, and I cannot afford to choose between the fronts upon which I must battle these forces of discrimination. wherever they appear to destroy me.
In 1991, Audre Lorde was named New York State Poet Laureate. The next year, after a 14-year battle with cancer, Audre Lorde spent her final days in St. Croix, Virgin Islands, continuing her activism with her partner at the time, Dr. Gloria Joseph.
On the back of the Audre Lorde Way celebration program, there are some of Audre's favorite quotes, and I had wanted to read them. It starts with, "Women are powerful and dangerous. It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate our differences." Audre would always say, revolution is a process, not an event. And I think that's really important. And then, change is the immediate responsibility of each of us, wherever, however we are standing, in whatever arena we choose. And so there it is, her legacy, change, love, action.
And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcome. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So, it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
I'm Scott Kirby for Urban U.
CUNY is about 178 years old, and its oldest school, City College, has an archive with material going back centuries. It's the oldest book here.
In this library.
1450.
About 1450. It's this probably made in a monastery or facility, probably in southern Germany. It just starts on this lovely page.
The City College archive tells a story about CUNY itself and about Harlem. Head archivist Sidney Van Noort allowed us to scratch the surface of this trove, which included Civil War cannonballs.
I think it's a connection to General Webb, the second president of the college.
So the second general of City College,
second
president was a Civil War general,
right?
Had been, and that probably explains why we have
these cannonballs.
That's crazy.
You want to hold it?
Can I, with no gloves on?
Well, you'll just might get a little bit of rust on your hand.
This is really heavy. We also found a campaign gem from 1920s New York Governor Al Smith, perhaps from when he ran for president in 1928. This is vote for Al Smith. It's an ashtray.
Congressman Charles Rangel, who served this district for more than 40 years, when he was retiring from Congress, he made arrangements to give to City College all of his congressional documents and papers and artifacts. Walking in the streets of Harlem.
The archive has a stash of Charlie Rangel materials and more items to do with Harlem, where City College lives.
In 2003, two of my colleagues put together an exhibit about the changing streetscapes of Harlem, about open spaces and development in Harlem. And one of the things they were trying to do was to collect documents to preserve what Harlem had been in the past, because in 2003 it's changing very quickly.
At the time of our visit, the archive had on display an exhibit on Townsend Harris, the founder of the City University of New York itself. Townsend Harris, who did well in the porcelain business, once oversaw the city's Board of Education.
in that position, he determined there was a fund administered by the state government in Albany called the Literature Fund, earmarked to support education in the state. And he made the point, why was this fund going to support 4 privately endowed institutions of learning in New York State? Why don't we spend part of it for a publicly funded institution of higher learning?
Townsend Harris donated things to the university over time, which led to an esoteric custom involving silver cups given to the graduating class every half-century.
And I believe the 1976 was the last one to receive it, so I think we're almost due in 2026.
Townsend Harris was a character in his own right and served as a diplomat to Japan. This is saying honoring a man who helped open Japan.
Right. The U.S. treaty and these other treaties helped open up trade with the United States and other countries. Over the years, because Harris is so well known in Japan, there's been contact between Japanese officials and City College over the years.
Since the 1980s, a tradition has taken place where Japanese officials in New York honor Townsend Harris.
In 1986, the mayor of Shimoda City in Japan wanted to commemorate Townsend Harris. And at the time, the priest, Reverend Murakami, from the temple grounds where Harris had his consulate in Shimoda, gave this scroll to then President Bernard Harrelson of City College. And this began a tradition of an official delegation from Shimoda, Japan, coming to visit City College every year to honor him.
A lot has changed since the 1800s. But some things haven't changed since the original Free Academy.
Many of these students, particularly at the end of the sophomore year, had to stop their education, usually for economic reasons. The same kinds of economic issues that our CUNY students still face today.
For Urban U, this is Shannon Ayala.
There was this story when I was about 1.5 years old. So I don't remember it myself, but my mom and dad told me my mom was tutoring me on like addition, and suddenly I was like, all right, so if 2 + 2 is 4, would 2x or 2n + 2n be 4n? So I was like discovering these things on my own, and my mom was like, whoa, this is kind of scary.
Some might think it's scary, but CUNY student Soborno Isaac Berry has had a lot of amazing things happen to him in his 12 short years. He started speaking in full sentences at 6 months and was reciting the periodic table at 2.
And what is this one?
Oxygen.
Boy, what is this one?
Fluoride.
Boy, you're gonna go to college. What is this one?
Needle.
He was being lauded for his brilliance at 4.
Wow, that was complicated. You are so amazing.
And then there was this.
Dear Soborno, I hope you take pride for your hard work and accomplishments. America needs students like you.
I want you to know I expect great things from you. Young people like you are tomorrow's leaders. You inspire me and give me tremendous hope for the future. Michelle and I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Barack Obama. Yeah, that was really a complete shock to me. So I got the letter from President Obama himself. I was like, the president of the US recognizing me? Like, first of all, how did he find out about me? And second of all, why would he put in the time and effort even to just write a letter about me? That was what really inspired me and really inspired my parents to keep moving forward and keep educating me.
But that wasn't all. At 6, he started writing books.
So I wrote it when I was 6. I didn't finish it until I was 8, even though it's a relatively short book because, you know, toddlers aren't very fast writers.
And at the age of 7, he was on national TV with Melissa McCarthy.
Now let me ask you a question right off the bat. Do you need a bow tie to be a physicist?
No, all you need is perseverance, hard work, and a dream of becoming Sir Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein someday in the future. But if you want to be a fancy-looking physician, then you need a bow tie.
It was definitely a great experience getting to know Melissa McCarthy. I had no idea how famous she was at that time, but now that I've actually know some stuff about her, it's really shocking how I got to see her face to face. I just sat next to her on a couch and I was like, yeah, everything is fine. I wish I could have gone back there again for a second time, but I'm pretty sure everyone only gets one episode.
At 10, he scored 1,500 on his SATs with a 780 out of 800 in math. And by 11, he was taking college courses.
And here I am walking to get my Brooklyn College ID. I'm testing my ID here. My linear algebra class is being taught by my teacher, Dr. Laurel Cooley.
And he's not only a student. He's been a teaching professor in India since the age of 7. But even though he's a 12-year-old prodigy, in many ways he's just a regular kid. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Okay, so the first one, definitely the most important one, is my brother. Come on. Oh, he's scared to appear on camera. He's at his social interaction limit for the day. He gives me motivation to do everything I do, whether it's through competition or just through understanding and excitement in math and physics. And I don't really know how to describe him. He's just like my role model in life. So my dad as well, he's been mentoring me since my birth, in fact. He's the one who's given me all those textbooks, who's taught me on my own, and who gave me the inspiration to actually view math as something you can play around with, rather than something that's just strict and has rules. And finally, my mom is definitely who unites us all. She is inspiring me herself, because even though she doesn't work in math and science, her work ethic is still something that I strive to achieve. My mom, my dad, and my brother, they've all helped me so much, and I really appreciate my family. If I was born in any other family in the world, I would not be where I am today.
When you're not studying or lecturing or trying to solve problems, what do you do just when you want to be a kid?
My dad loved playing chess. He says that he used to be a grandmaster a long time ago. I don't think that's true, but I think we can let him have his fun. So my dad and my brother have motivated me to pursue chess. My art teacher motivated me to pursue art. She just encouraged me to be myself and weave whatever I think about my situation into my art.
Although he knows his life has been and will be a little different than other kids his age, he seemed okay with that.
I'm sure there were probably a few people who've called me a child prodigy in the past. Well, more than a few people, lots of passionate YouTube commenters, but I wouldn't consider myself that. I just want to contribute something significant, and I mean, the younger you start, the better you do.
I'm Scott Kirby for Urban U.
Coming up, CUNY students uncover the hidden history of Central Park's Lost Village, and we spotlight a CUNY alumna breaking barriers as the first Afro-Latina to open an independent cinema in New York City. But first, a look back at BMCC's Inspiring Black History Month kickoff.
Thank you for being here today as we kick off our African Heritage Month celebration here at BMCC. We take immense pride in our diverse community. Our students come from all walks of life, bringing with them unique perspectives, traditions, and experiences. This diversity enriches our learning environment, enhancing our collective understanding of the world. It serves as a powerful reminder that while our backgrounds may differ, our shared humanity unites us. We must continue to learn from one another, listen to each other's stories, and celebrate the vibrant cultures that encompass our community. As we celebrate this month, let us do so with pride and purpose, knowing that in honoring our past, we empower our future.
Not a lot of people know about the history of Central Park. And then when I asked my students about whether or not they were familiar with Seneca Village and the residents and the history of Central Park, none of them knew it. And I didn't know it because we weren't taught this in school.
Seneca Village was a prominent African American and Irish immigrant community that existed in what became Central Park. And the history extends from 1825 to about 1855. Its origin stems from the involvement of prominent African Americans who wanted to be enfranchised, purchasing property in what became Central Park, so they could have the means to vote. One of the initial purchasers was Andrew Williams, who purchased 3 lots in that area. The African American Zion Church purchased 12 lots, and we see this as the beginning for what became a prominent community of African American homeowners. With a school and 3 churches, you see a community and the fabric of community that is close and tight-knit. This is an extract of one of the census records from 1855, and indicating who are the people living in what was Seneca Village. Here we have the marriage of J.D. Cassidy and Mary O'Neill. October 8th, married in the house of Reverend W. Richmond Bloomingdale, New York. The people who own the land around white families or part of the political establishment are aware that a park is going to be built, so the value of property around what becomes the park skyrockets, whereas the area where the park is being built diminishes. Because of who owned it and how it was described, the family owners were not able to fight as much and lost out to the city.
1855 or so, they assessed the property and told people they had to be out within like a year.
This is Central Park condemnation map. And right here we have the All Angels Church. And next to the All Angels Church we have the Wilson family home, which was the section for the All Angels Church. The Wilson family's house was a 3-story frame house. And through the dig, we came across the stone walls of the foundation for that house, in addition to finding artifacts used by the family during that period. Here, there's a button made out of bone. You've noticed the holes, 3 holes are of unequal size. With artifacts, there's a range, both ceramic, glass, metal. You see the complexity of human life. The type of ceramics used, the type of artifacts used, contradicts the description of a squatter settlement. You see some level of a working class towards middle class community because of the value of the ceramics and other artifacts that we found in the dig.
Because Seneca Village and the history hasn't been shared in the curriculum, it just presented an opportunity to learn more about the actual contributions of the people who lived here.
And when you look at that church, it was a very prominent church, had a lot of leaders of the African American community at the time.
And because Seneca Village is a silenced part of New York City history, in fact it was like erased, covered up, it was time to kind of uncover that and, to preserve and honor the experiences and the lives of the people who lived here before we built the park. I was hoping that my students would find an opportunity to learn something they haven't learned before, to really embody the experience of what it must have been like to walk through this area and what it must have been like for the people who lived here a long time ago, to experience their lives here, and to do that physically is a rich learning opportunity that you can't learn from a textbook. You can't learn from just reading. So bringing them outside into the park and listening to John talk about the history and walking around and looking at the different sites, it helps them to kind of integrate and deepen their understanding of why this place is so significant.
The kid that's 5 years old that plays on that rock is playing just the way a black kid at 5 years old was playing when it was in the community. Imagine in the summer when the windows are open, you could hear walking through town, you could hear the music coming out of the churches. That's magical.
I didn't know anything about the entertainment world. I didn't know anything about producing. It was my first time, and so I funded this film, and then we submitted it to several film festivals, and it won. And I was like, wait a minute, so if I could figure out how to make money, I can help all these filmmakers.
The theater not only screens the latest blockbusters, but also serves as a platform for independent filmmakers, creating a space where artists can monetize their work and see their films on the big screen.
I had owned the October Film Festival for years before I opened this, and I knew that it was really hard for independent filmmakers to fill a 200-seater. And do you know how sad it is as a filmmaker when you go to do your Q&A and you're standing in the front and you look out and there's nobody there, or there's only 5 people? So I thought we need to make it small, so no matter, even if there's 20 people, that filmmaker wins.
Stewart Cinema is more than just a theater, it's also a hub for the community. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I am connected and committed to the community. And so anywhere I can help, and any way I could use this, like there's a church that meets here on Sunday morning. This is the place where there's a mommy and me in the morning, so mothers can still watch movies, because mothers were like, I don't get to go to the movies, and I'd have to pay a babysitter $20 an hour to go to a movie, and what if it's not good, right? So we have tried everything we can. We have a senior program, so our seniors can watch movies for $10 and they get a small popcorn. It keeps them young, it keeps them connected to the industry.
When you think of movie theater snacks, it's usually popcorn, soda, and candy. But Emmeline brings a taste of home to the snack bar with dishes rooted in Latin culture.
So I thought, wow, so when I build this theater, I'm going to incorporate empanadas, which I love, right? Like they're my favorite snack food. And so what if we make them healthy and we do spinach empanadas? We also have pollo, we have beef. And then tres leches, my favorite cake. And like for me, a cup of coffee and a slice of tres leches, like heaven. Food is like super important. I think that's what connects people too.
As the first Afro-Latina independent theater owner in New York City, Emmeline's achievements bring with it the immense pressure to succeed, not just for herself, but for her entire community.
The challenge of being the first, I think there's a lot of expectation. And because I take this so personal, because I am a filmmaker, like I want everything to always be perfect. Also, I feel like if I fail, if this doesn't succeed, even from day one, I was like, they're not gonna say like, oh, Emmeline Stewart failed at building this theater. It's gonna be like, Black Latinas can't run businesses. They don't know what they're doing. And so I felt a lot of pressure to succeed.
What's next for Stewart Cinema and Cafe? Do you see this growing into other parts of New York City?
We are going to build in Brownsville, which is still the poorest neighborhood in New York. They're building a ton of affordable housing in Brownsville, but nowhere for people to go. So where are the kids gonna go? Where are people gonna go?
Though Emmeline may have heard plenty of no's, each one motivated her to make changes in the industry, not just for herself, but for others following in her footsteps.
The person who said there was no audience for my content, thank God for him. Thank God. Because he really had me walking away going, okay, so how do we change this?
For Urban U, I'm Isabel Ortiz.
That's all for this episode of Urban U. But before we go, we leave you with more moments from BMCC's Black History Month celebrations. Thank you for watching these powerful stories from the largest urban university in the nation, the City University of New York.